Hello everyone, and welcome to an exciting episode of BioLogic Science News. A few days ago, NASA released their latest findings about the moon Enceladus. The moon is small and icy, covered in glaciers and cracking sheets of ice. Below this ice exists a saltwater ocean. For many years now, it's been hypothesized that life might exist in these subsurface oceans. This has also been suspected of the moon Europa. The movie Europa Report speculated on the nature of possible alien life in these oceans, but their depiction was more science fiction than fact. Spoiler alert, but in the movie, the Europan alien is a huge creature, black skin with fluorescent blue eyes and suction cups, with a radial symmetry and tentacles like an octopus. I really enjoyed the movie, but as with so many other science fiction movies, the depiction of aliens wasn't very realistic. It's not that it's impossible for alien life to look like an octopus, it's just that it's unlikely for life to get so big on Europa. This is because, as far as we're aware, there simply isn't enough energy in the system to sustain complex life. It takes some kind of energy to sustain microbes and multicellular creatures, and the chemical energy in their bodies gets used by their predators, and so on and so forth up the food chain. The reason predator populations are smaller than their prey is because they can only digest and process a limited amount of the total chemical energy by eating the prey's body. This is the food chain, or the trophic chain. Up until now, it was believed that Europa, as well as the other icy moon Enceladus, just didn't have enough energy to sustain life. Heat from the sun, heat from Jupiter or Saturn, even heat generated by the tidal forces of gravity, and the heat of a molten core. It was all presumed that these sources added together simply didn't provide enough heat. The oceans were believed to be cold and empty of life. But new data has been discovered, and new hypotheses can be made in the light of this new evidence. In previous Science News episodes, I talked about the discovery that Enceladus' ocean has more heat than we expected. In another episode, I talked about the effect that hydrogen-spewing deep-sea In a previous Science News episode, I talked about the discovery that Enceladus' ocean has more heat than we expected. There's anomalous heat signatures coming from below the ice, below the ocean, indicating some kind of geologic process heating the ocean in that particular region of Enceladus. In another episode, I talked about the effect that deep-sea hydrothermal vents would have on life if they spewed hydrogen, molecular hydrogen, into the ocean water. To keep it brief, both the increased heat and the possibility of hydrogen vents would increase the likelihood for life. The higher heat means a warmer ocean, and a warmer ocean is more hospitable for the genesis of biomolecules. And that means that it's more hospitable for life. Deep-sea hydrothermal vents spewing hydrogen would provide a chemical resource for life to use as energy. A chemical energy source is a food source, and where there's food, there can be life. Scientists behind the Cassini mission have detected evidence of these hydrogen vents in the ocean floors of Enceladus. The Cassini probe sampled some of the material coming out of geysers blasting from the icy surface of the moon. These geysers appeared over areas with relatively high heat signatures, areas where scientists believe geological processes like a deep-sea hydrothermal vent may be producing the hydrogen. The geysers shoot plumes of water and gas tens of kilometers into the air above the icy crust of Enceladus. These plumes are apparently 98% water, 1% hydrogen, which must have come from the deep-sea hydrothermal vents, and the remaining 1% are other gases like carbon dioxide and ammonia and methane. Now this is where stuff starts to get really intense. Life on Earth is believed to have started from very similar conditions. Through a process called Methanogenesis, primitive microbes could digest hydrogen and carbon dioxide, fusing them into methane as a byproduct. This chemical process can generate enough energy to sustain life. We know it played a huge role in our own evolution, as studies have shown that the last universal common ancestor of life on Earth was quite likely a hydrogen-breathing methanogenic microbe. If it happened on Earth, it can happen on Enceladus. This discovery is a huge step forward in the search for extraterrestrial life. It's huge because we've basically discovered a food source, and it's not just any food source, it's the same stuff that sustained the first life on Earth. The conditions in the Enceladian ocean seem to be ripe for life. If these conditions allow for the genesis of microbial life, then perhaps entire communities of microbes coat the ocean floor. If life has existed on Enceladus for many years, and of course assuming the hydrogen vents give out enough thermal and chemical energy, the alien microbes could have evolved into multicellular creatures. If there was still enough time and enough energy coming into the ocean ecosystem, it's possible that life could have become more and more complex, creating macroscopic plants and animals that feed off of each other in a complex food web. By providing strong support for the potential existence of life on Enceladus, this new data also suggests that movies like Europa Report could, in all actuality, end up being more fact than science fiction. If you've enjoyed these science news episodes about the Cassini mission and you want to know more, check out NASA's website. You can read more about the fascinating and science-filled 19.5 years of the Cassini mission, but unfortunately, note that the voyage is nearing its end. The Cassini probe has given us so much information about Saturn, about our solar system, so I'm kind of bummed to say that its final months are approaching. The Cassini probe will spend its final months orbiting Saturn, orbiting so close that it's inside of its rings, getting closer and closer until it disintegrates in the upper atmosphere on September 15th, 2017.